I'm Amirova Oksana Georgievna, and I'm the Associate Professor of the English Department. I'm the head of the Master's Program, the English Language and the Modern Educational Environment. And today we're going to speak the entrance examination procedure. First, I will give you some nuggets of information about the procedure itself. The entrance examination presents a test. This is the multiple choice test consisting of 25 points. You are to fulfill the test within 60 minutes and you are going to have only one attempt, and will you do your best to make that attempt successful? Let us consider some of the samples and the most essential topics that you are to have a command of. First, you should know, of course, the system of tenses of the English language in the active voice as well as in the passive voice. The first example, which you can see on the screen, illustrates the so-called sequence of tenses. According to the rule of sequence of tenses, you are to correlate the action which is expressed by one clause with the action which is expressed by the other clause. Let us see the sentence which is presented on the screen. The director had already given the assignment when he, and then you are to complete the sentence, that Monday was a holiday. First, you should analyze the situation itself. The general context of the sentence is in the past. That's why we can correlate the actions. What comes first, what comes second. Naturally, then, that first director gave the assignment and then he remembered something. That's why to show the priority of the action, we use past perfect tense in the first clause and past simple tense in the second clause. So number one is correct. There is another variant of fulfilling the test. You should analyze the options first. For instance, number one corresponds to past simple tense, number two corresponds to past perfect tense, number three corresponds to past continuous tense, and number four corresponds to past simple tense but already in the passive. According to the context, we do understand that we need the active words. That's why number four is wrong by all means. Then the options are between 1, 2, and 3. Since we have got the conjunction when, it requires the past simple tense, not the continuous, since with the continuous there will be the conjunction while. But here we've got the conjunction when, which presupposes that the action is associated with a definite moment in the past, and the definite moment in the past is associated with the past simple tense. So, as a conclusion, we can say that number one is the correct variant. Let us consider another example. I'm sorry, but this bag, and then comes the continuation of the sentence. Let us consider the options. Number one, was being sold, corresponds to past continuous tense in the passive voice. Number two corresponds to passive voice but already in the present simple tense. Number three corresponds to the perfect tense in the passive. And number four corresponds to perfect tense but already in the active. Again, we shall turn to the sentence itself. Sorry, but this bag, and with that bag is done something. This bag experiences some action from somebody else, and it means that it requires the passive voice. Out of the four options, we can see that only 1, 2, 3 are the examples of the passive voice. That's why number 4 is wrong by all means. Now, let us consider the general context. And the general context is in the present tense. I am sorry. That's why point 1 is not correct since it is in the past. Let us consider number 3. Number 3 starts with have, and have is associated not with the singular tense but with the plural. Since back is in the singular, that's why the auxiliary should be has. But in number 3, we've got have. That's why the only correct variant is number 2. By the way, if it is, for example, has been already sold. This is also incorrect since the word already should be located after the first auxiliary word. For example, has already been sold will be also the correct variant. Next. The next problematic issue is the issue of the oblique mood. Since in English there are 4 oblique moods which correspond to 1 oblique mood in Russian. In Russian, the construction is rather simple. This is the form of the past simple tense with the element бы. Then, in English, we differentiate between 4 oblique moods. They are the conditional mood, the suppositional mood, subjunctive 1 and subjunctive 2. And 3 of them have 2 forms related to their simultaneity and related to their posteriority. Let us consider the first example. The chairperson demanded that, and then comes the continuation. You should remember that if the main sentence, if the main clause, like the chairperson demanded, contains such verbs as demand, suggest, require, request, insist, then afterwards we should use only suppositional mood. Suppositional mood is formed by the auxiliary should plus simple infinitive to show the simultaneity. Simultaneity means одновременность, and should plus perfect infinitive to show the priority. And the essential thing as far as the suppositional mood is that should might be omitted altogether. Let us consider the suggested options. The members studied the problem more carefully. At first sight, everything is okay since just in the first clause we've got demanded in the past simple tense and studied in the past simple tense. But you should remember that if the main clause contains such verbs as demand, suggest, insist, require, then in the continuation there should be the suppositional mood. And one more time, I want to underline this fact that suppositional mood is formed by should plus infinitive or bare infinitive. That's why number 1 is incorrect since this is past simple tense but not the infinitive. The problem was more carefully studied. The same situation takes place since was studied is the form which is related to the direct mood, not to the oblique mood. With more carefulness, the problem could be studied, could be maybe rendered that like oblique mood, but this is the conditional modal, and we need the suppositional mood. And the only right variant is number 4. The members study the problem more carefully, and study here not the present simple tense, but the suppositional mood, which is formed by bare infinitive. You should also remember that the variant like the members should study the problem will be considered also the right variant, but there is none of the kind. I want to underline the fact that the essential point with the suppositional mood is the semantics of simultaneity. Here, for example, the chairperson demanded that the members study the problem more carefully. We've got the simultaneity in the past, demanded. Then, if we change the tense of the main clause, like the chairperson demands, the continuation will be the same, that the members study the problem more carefully, and the simultaneity will be already in the present. The same concerns the future tense. For instance, in 2 days or, for instance, tomorrow, the chairperson will demand that the members study the problem more carefully. And the options with the modal with the auxiliary should will be also correct, like the members should study the problem more carefully. Even if the subject members is used in the singular, for example, the member, not the members, but the member, the continuation will be again the same, study the problem, not studies, but study, since study is the infinitive, which is used with the suppositional mood. Let us consider some other sentence. For instance, this bus journey seems never ending. I wish we, then comes the insertion, a car, which is translated as это путешествие на автобусе, кажется, никогда не закончится. Жаль, что мы не взяли машину. If we speak like жаль, что мы не взяли машину, It is related like priority. Priority means предшествование. And you should remember that after wish, usually we use subjunctive to. Subjunctive to, this is also the kind of the oblique mood. And the formation of the subjunctive to is the following. It corresponds to the form of the past simple tense if we mean the simultaneity, одновременность, and it corresponds to the form of the past perfect tense if we mean the priority. In this sentence, we mean the priority, the action of our not having taken the car is prior to the action that the journey seems never ending. That's why the variant I wish we had taken a car will be the only right variant. So number 4 is correct because of the fact that the main sentence starts with the word wish, which demands subjunctive to in the first place, and in the second place, priority is meant. That's why subjunctive to should be used. And subjunctive to is formed by the form of past perfect tense. Let us consider the next sentence. I would rather your friends, then comes the insertion in the garden then. After the phrase would rather, if then comes another subject like friends, this is the signal for you to use subjunctive to. And subjunctive to, I want to repeat one more time, that is formed by the form of the past simple tense to show the simultaneity and past perfect tense to show the priority. I would like to draw your attention to the word then. And then is the word which underlines the fact that this action is prior than the action expressed by the main clause. Мы бы хотели, чтобы друзья не курили тогда в саду. So the priority is meant. That's why we need subjunctive to parse. Out of the variant suggested, number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, the form of the past perfect tense, which corresponds to subjunctive to parsed, is number 4, hadn't smoked. This is the right variant. For instance, if we eliminate this then, I would rather your friends, then comes the insertion in the garden. The situation is different and already the regularity of action is implied. With the word when, we need the priority of the action, and just this action is a definite action. And if there is no then the situation looks like the regular situation, like the usual situation, and we do not have the priority. We've got the simultaneity between the first clause and the second clause. That's why we need subjunctive to present, and subjunctive to present corresponds to the form of the past simple tense. As a result, the right variant without that then will be like didn't smoke. Let us consider another sentence that's on the screen. If I, then comes the insertion, they were coming, I would have met them at the station. In sentences like that, so just if they consist of two clauses, the main clause «я бы сделал что-то, если бы я сделал что-то», we should bear in mind the situation in the main clause. Let us consider the main clause first. I would have met them at the station. The form of the conditional parse, and conditional parse is formed by would plus perfect infinitive, would have met. We do understand that this action took place in the past. That's why in the subordinate clause we need subjunctive to parse. And again, subjunctive to parse corresponds to the form of the past perfect tense. This is the form number 3, had known. So if I had known they were coming, I would have met them at the station. Sometimes the tense of the main clause may be related to the present, and the tense in the subordinate clause may be related in the past. That's why just before deciding the variant, first you should bear in mind the semantics of the sentence. But in all the cases, in the main clause, we use conditional mood. And one more time, I will remind you as far as the formation of the conditional mood, this is would plus simple infinitive to denote the simultaneity with the present moment or with the moment of speaking, and would plus perfect infinitive, like in the suggested example, to show the priority. And subjunctive 2 is formed by the form of the past simple to relate the present tense and the form of the past perfect to relate the prior action. Let's turn to another issue, and this is the issue of using gerund and infinitive. First, you should know the verbs which demand either gerund or infinitive, but sometimes after, for instance, the verbs like need and want, both gerund and infinitive may be used. And the peculiarity of these verbs, I mean the verbs like need and want, is that the form of the gerund has the passive meaning, which may be replaced by the infinitive in the passive form. For instance, Mary's dress needs, and then comes the insertion. Be ironed, ironing, ironed, having been ironed. First, to iron means гладить. То есть, платье Мэри необходимо погладить. We see here passive meaning. And passive meaning may be related either through infinitive in the passive form or gerund. Let's consider the examples suggested. Be ironed. This is the infinitive, but the fact is that that's the bare infinitive, and bare infinitive is used only after the modal verbs or the verbs of sensual perception. And here we've got the verb need. The verb need is referred to the class of verbs of mental activity. That's why particle to is obligatory after this verb. For instance, Mary's dress needs to be ironed is the right variant, but there is no be to here. That's why be ironed is the wrong variant. Another variant which relates the semantics of passivity is the gerund. And number 2, ironing, corresponds to that variant. So number 2 is correct in this context. Want to summarize this fact. So there are two verbs like need and want, after which we can use gerund with the meaning of passivity. Let us consider another sentence related to the use of gerund and infinitive. For instance, there are verbs in the system of the English language which are used with the prepositions. For example, to look forward to, which is translated as ждать с нетерпением, or to object to. And in this context, we do not mix up to like particle, which introduces the infinitive, and to like preposition, which introduces either gerundal phrase or nominal phrase. And with the verb to object, to, which is obligatory used after this verb, is the preposition. Preposition means предлог. After preposition, we can use either gerundal form or nominative form. Let us consider the cited example. So, example number 1, to, he, coming. If we take that coming, which corresponds to the gerund, the nominative part, like he, should be not in the nominative form, but in the possessive form with a gerund. And the only possessive form with a nominative part corresponds to number 3. For example, to his coming. Since his coming is all right, but there is no preposition to, which is obligatory with the verb to object. To object is never used without that preposition. Object is used always with the preposition to object to. Then, one more time, I want to draw your attention to the fact that if we use gerund, like coming, in all the 4 suggested examples, the nominal part which is expressed either by the pronoun or by the noun, should be in the possessive form, not like he, not like him, but like his. This is the possessive form of the personal pronoun. Let us consider another issue. That's the problem of the complex object and complex subject. With the problem of complex object, you should remember that all the verbs are divided into the group of verbs of sensual perception and the group of verbs of mental activity. With a group of verbs of sensual perception like see, hear, smell, feel, we can use bare infinitive. And or participial phrase if we mean the process itself. If we mean the fact, then the bare infinitive is used. If we mean the process, then either gerundial construction or infinitive or participial construction should be used. With the verbs of mental activity like want, would like, to be eager, the infinitive should be used with the particle to. Let us see the sentence. Rachel could see the girl an envelope into the box. To slip means опустить. So опустить presupposes the fact, not the process. That's why we are to use the infinitive here. And since just in the main clause we can see the verb to see of the sensual perception, the infinitive should be without particle to. So as a result, we've got the right variant, number 3. Slip an envelope into the box. Slipping is also quite good here, but опуска яр sounds clumsy even in the Russian translation. So опустила. Rachel могла видеть, как девочка опустила конверт. Then, next. The next problem under consideration is a problem of countability and countability. That's essential for the not only for the formation of the plural of the noun, but also from the point of view of the irregular adjectives. Irregular adjectives like little, less, the least. You should remember that countable nouns are used with the words like many in the meaning of много and few in the meaning of мало, and uncountable nouns are used with few in the meaning of мало, and uncountable nouns are used with the words like little in the meaning of мало and much in the meaning of много. So the sentence like this year will be difficult for the company because, and then comes the options. They have less money and new projects than they had last year. It has less money and fewer new projects than it had last year. The last year it didn't have as fewer and little few projects and money. There are fewer money and new projects that in the last year there were. You should concentrate on the words like fewer and less. Let us consider the words like money and projects. In the first place, money is uncountable noun, which is used with the adjective little, less, the least. And projects, on the other hand, is the countable noun, which is used with the words like few and many. That's why point 1 is incorrect, since the word less is related to both components, both money and new projects. Let us consider number 2. Here we've got less money and fewer new projects. And the company, by the way, is associated with the third person singular. That's why point 2 is correct. Let us consider number 3 and number 4, since sometimes you are to spot the mistake to be 100% sure that you have chosen the right variant. For instance, the last year it didn't have as few and little new projects and money. Even it sounds clumsy. And in number 4, fewer money and new projects. Again, the same mistake as in number 1. Only just the word fewer is used both with money and new projects. With a new project, it's pretty good, but with money, there should be less, since money is an uncountable noun. Let us consider another question, another sentence. Global producers often sacrifice quality, and then comes the insertion. So, profit margin. Margin means выгода, прибыль. And the same as money, this is uncountable noun. If we start analyzing from the end, from number 4, we can see the following. Amount of profit. Amount is associated with a countable noun. That's why number 4 is incorrect. If we turn to number 3, we can see the word quantities, and the word quantities is also associated with a countable noun. That's why quantities of money is incorrect. Then, number 2, in place of to earn more money. Seems to be more money is okay. But the middle part of the insertion string is not pretty good, since in place of sounds right, but the fact is, if the phrase ends up with a preposition, the rule is that after preposition we can use either nominal phrase in place of the job, in place of profit, in place of the producer, and so on and so forth, or gerundal form. But here, instead of the gerund, we can have here the infinitive, to earn. So in place of earning more money would be correct, but to earn is incorrect. That's why the only right variant is number 1, for a larger profit margin. Let us consider the next problem, and this is the problem of clauses of time and condition. You ought to remember that in the clauses of time and condition, to relate the futurity, the present tense is used, despite the fact that the translation is in the future tense. For example, she must retype the report before she and then hands it in to the director. To hand something in is translated like передать, вручить. So, the translation is, она должна перепечатать отчет, прежде чем передаст его директору. Прежде чем передаст. In Russian, we use the future tense, but this is the clause of time, since it is introduced by the conjunction before. And according to the grammar rule in the subordinate clauses of time and condition, to render the meaning of futurity, we should use present simple tense. That's why the variant hands it in is the only right variant. So if we transform the sentence into the past, for instance, we can eliminate that must, and we can use the past simple tense in the main clause, like she retyped the report before, and then comes the continuation. And again, according to the rule, to render the meaning of futurity, we should use the present tense instead of the future. But then, thanks to the sequence of tenses, since in the second sentence we would have the verb already in the past, not must retype, but retyped. Then, according to the rule of the sequence of tenses, instead of hands it in, we would have the form handed it in. So just the past simple tense should be used if the past simple is used in the main clause. Let us turn to the issues of syntactic arrangement. The sentence is, the fact that the space exploration has increased dramatically in the past 30 years, and then comes the continuation. While analyzing lengthy sentences, you ought to spot the predicative lines first. Predicative line is the connection between the subject and the predicate. For instance, the fact, and there is no predicate to this word. That's why we are to spot that predicate in the continuation. Then, the space exploration, that's the subject, another subject, has increased. And this is the predicate to the subject, space exploration. So, this predicative line, space exploration has increased, is already fulfilled. That's why we are to look for the predicate to the subject fact. Let us consider number 1. So, is an evidence of us wanting to know more of our solar system. At first sight, we can spot the predicate here. The fact is, everything is okay. But then comes the word evidence with the indefinite article, which contradicts to the general grammar rule, which says like words like evidence, knowledge, are uncountable nouns, and uncountable nouns are never used with the indefinite article. Moreover, after preposition of, we spoke about it already, we can use gerundal form. This wanting is pretty good, but with the gerundal form, we are to use the nominal part in the possessive case. So the phrase like of our wanting will be okay, but not of us wanting. Let us consider number 2. Indicates that we are very eager to learn all we can about our solar system. So the fact is easily correlated with the predicate indicates. So the predicative line is complete. The fact indicates space exploration has increased. And then comes the third predicative line, like we are eager, which introduces even the fourth predicative line, we can, about our solar system. Then, so number 2 is pretty good, but let us consider number 3. How we want to learn more about the solar system. So just there is no continuation, there is no continuation of the predicative line for the subject fact. That's why the sentence is incorrect. Then, and number 4 is pointing to evidence of our intention to know a lot much more about what is called our solar system. The first fact that should draw your attention is the usage of the continuous form with a verb to point. And the fact is that the subject is the fact, which is inanimate object. That's why the word point should be in the present simple tense, not in the progressive or continuous. Moreover, the string like lot, much, more sounds clumsy since the grammatically correct form is much more without that lot. So we can turn again to the only right variant, and this is variant 2. Indicates that we are very good to learn all we can about our solar system. Next, many of our current international problems we are now facing. And then comes the continuation. Again, let us consider their predicative lines. Many of problems, there is no predicate to that subject. We are facing, this is the complete predicative line. We is the subject, are facing, this is the predicate. That's why we are to find the predicate to the subject problems. Let us consider number 1, linguistic incompetences. There is no verb. There is no link verb. That's why there is no predicate here. Then number 2 are the result of misunderstanding. Sounds pretty good since just problems is in the plural and the verb to be is in the plural too. Then number 3, let us consider are because of not understanding themselves. So just the continuation of this option sounds clumsy, understanding themselves. So the continuation is wrong. Then number 4, to lack something. First of all, if it is the verb to lack, there is no preposition. If it is the nominal phrase, then preposition of is used. But we need the verb here. That's why we can turn to the only right variant, and this is variant number 2, are the result of misunderstanding. The next issue under analysis is the difference between phrases to be used to doing something and used to do something. So the phrase to be or to get used to doing something is translated like привыкать, and used to do something is translated like многократное действие в прошлом. You should bear in mind that the construction to be used to do does not exist, as well as the construction to be used, as well as the construction used to doing. There are only constructions like used to do with the meaning of repeated action in the past, and to be or to get used to doing with the meaning of привыкать. So let us consider the example. Janet, then comes the insertion, on the electric stove after having a gas one for so long. Let us analyze the options. For instance, number 4, used to cook, sounds good with the meaning of repeated action in the past. Is used to cook does not exist since the beginning is used requires the gerundial continuation. For example, is used to cooking, and is used to cook does not exist. If we turn to number 2, used to cooking, it does not exist either since used to introduces the infinitive, and here we've got gerund. Number 1 is used to cooking sounds good with the meaning of привыкать. So all in all, we've got 2 right variants like is used to cooking and used to cook. Now we are to analyze the semantics of the sentence. Either it is repeated action in the past or the phrase is used in the meaning of привыкать. So Janet on the electric stove after having a gas one for so long. Naturally, we need the phrase with the meaning of привыкать. That's why variant one is all right. So, generally speaking, I would like to underline that while sitting for the entrance examination, you can make use of the following books. So, English Grammar by Kushanska or Murphy, English Grammar in Use. With all possible questions, you're welcome during the time of the consultation, and the consultation takes place on the 5th of August from 10 to 12, either via WhatsApp, the number you can see on the screen, or email. I wish you all the luck, and I'm looking forward to see you as our students at our master's program, the English language in the modern environment.